The clothing allowance bothers me a great deal because basically it's uncontrolled. That each employee gets $1,000 a year and no receipts are provided. And I know you've struggled with it, but to me it's antithetical to having any control over town expenses. And I know you can't go back and renegotiate it. You probably wouldn't succeed anyway. But to me, that's a problem, and it just doesn't smell right. So I make a motion that we approve 17-100 unless there's other discussion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowman?
Yes.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Councilmember Vernon?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 17.
Next, we have resolutions requiring separate action. Resolution 17-101, resolution endorsing a plan amendment to the Vernon Township Wastewater Management Plan and Sussex County Water Quality Plan for Route 94 corridor and the McAfee areas in the Township of Vernon. This resolution authorizes the expansion of the sewer service area. One thing that I'd like to know is that the township will be hosting a joint meeting with the Vernon Township Municipal Utilities Authority to specifically discuss the sewer expansion project, as well as the impact and limitations on the pump houses and their various conditions, and we'll have an we'll have on an expansion of on April 20th, 2017 at 7 p.m. Additionally, this meeting will discuss the status of the various lift stations and their potential impact on the system.
I make the motion to place this on the agenda or on the table for discussion.
Okay, a second. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just take notes.
Second. Need a second?
Council President Murphy seconded the resolution.
Yes.
So we just
For discussion. Did you have?
No.
Oh, I thought you said you wanted. You had.
I place it on the table for consideration and discussion.
Well, I would just really like to know, with this impending meeting that we have coming up on the 20th, what's the rush to put this on the agenda and vote?
Rush? I don't think it's a rush. I think with this situation, its predecessor amendment, the resolution being in abeyance for over a year and a half, that, and based upon your own comments that required, that you were looking to not rescind, but recast that motion in another fashion, that this particular motion just does that. And certainly I don't think waiting a year and a half is considered to be a hasty action by any stretch of the imagination. I've said time and time again, I will continue to bring this issue to the fore, to the public, that we need commercial ratables in this town. We cannot continue to ask the taxpayer to shoulder these increases, and that the only way we're going to get some type of increase in commercial ratables is to provide them with the infrastructure. I take note of the resident, Mrs. Reinecker, that to do this the cost is substantial, but I also know that companies who come into this town looking for a place to set up shop and have their business, they're not looking to dig wells or dig septic systems. They're looking to have that done already there by the township. In my opinion, this particular resolution does not commit the township to any money expenditures. It does not commit the township to any growth in terms of adding to its sewers or its sewer infrastructure. It merely allows the MUA to do what they have been asked to do by their mission, by their charter, and I think it's about time that they be allowed to do so.
Well, something else that I'd like to say is, now, this resolution states that, that the MUA was actually, now, which MUA? The new MUA of 2017, or the MUA that wanted it in 2015? When did they do this? Is this
This
the new
is
commissioners?
the VMUA.
Correct.
Matter of fact, Mr. Buckley sat at that table and asked to be allowed to proceed with the study.
But I'm asking you about the MUA.
You're trying to obfuscate the situation. In my mind, it's very, very clear. There was a move for the agenda for the
Mr. Buckney is not the sole, Mr. Buckney is not the sole commissioner.
He is the chairperson of the...
That gives him no more rights, no more power. Also, you have, where's the map? Is there another map? Or are we going to be presented with a third map? You have no map attached to this. Where's the plan? What are you doing? This is premature.
It's not premature.
Of course it is.
No,
Last time we were presented with 2 different maps. This time, no map. You reference here the letter from the county health department. What letter? The one that said the septics were failing? That one?
I am
Which
not
letter?
referencing any septics failing. I'm simply asking that this resolution be passed for the...
Whereas the Sussex County Board of Health has written a letter endorsing the expansion. Where's the letter?
Asking that for the benefit of this township, for public health, and for the environment.
I'm just asking you for a copy of the plan, a copy of the map, a copy of the letter, what goes with this resolution. You want us to vote on something blindly, once again.
I'm asking that this resolution be passed. As a matter of fact, I would like to poll the question.
I'd actually like to know why you're now in such a hurry, since we have a joint meeting scheduled with...
Because after 1 year and over 6 months, I see no change in the ability of this township to move this forward.
There's a lot of
It's
change.
about time we make...
There's a lot of change, and the change is coming with having the joint meeting.
I've asked for the question to be called, to be moved, and I call for the yeas and nays on it.
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me, the yeas and nays have been called for to move the question.
Councilmember Kadesh?
No.
Councilmember Grooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
I'll abstain.
You know, Justin, it's so long, I wasn't even on it.
Question.
I can't believe you're doing this a week before
We
we're having a
wasted-
joint meeting. I really can't believe you're doing this. Why, it's done now.
Oh, the joint meeting, we talked about.
You're taking away all the leverage
Question on the floor
What kind of leverage?
to the mayor.
of our input.
We've wasted $10,000 of taxpayers' money
No,
on information that we already knew.
What, that's not going to work?
Why a financial company and not an engineering company was brought in, I have no idea. And I'm going to ask you the question. We've pawned for a year and a half. What is your viewpoint? Are you pro or are you against?
I'm pro to certain areas, and I've absolutely said the areas. Remington Garnet was brought in because they are financial engineers and they know what they're doing throughout the state. They said in their study it was financially not feasible to expand into residential areas. That was their professional opinion, not mine.
Big finances in it.
So that's what they came in. They looked at everything. That's what they said. This council approved
Thank you.
the study.
The question has been called. I call for the yeas and nays on the adoption of resolution 17101.
So you voted on something with nothing attached to it.
Not even a reference to the letter.
No, we didn't vote. We voted on moving the question.
We can't
Supposed to close discussion.
It's an endorsement.
I'm asking that the motion now be voted on.
You're asking for a motion to adopt 17101?
Yes.
But you were saying before, it was a motion to call it what?
To move the question.
It was already moved.
No, the question was to close. I call for the vote on 17101.
Councilmember Kadesh?
We're voting again?
Aaron? Councilmember Kadesh?
No.
No. Councilmember Holmes? Yes. Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
And excuse me, could you stop? No, could we finish conducting the business? Thank you. Well, exactly, but please let us finish the business. I'm abstaining based on the fact that this is incomplete. It's premature and it's incomplete, and there's nothing attached to this. There's no letter from the health department, there's no map, there's no plan. This is no better than the last one, so I abstain.
And I'm going to make a comment. It sounds as if you want to go forward, as Mayor Shortway said. You got to, in my opinion now, is look at the whole picture. You'll have all that information. The time that they come to the council and ask, we probably won't even be here.
Then that's irresponsible because this is an endorsement.
No.
This is an endorsement, so that makes it irresponsible because all they need to do then is vote on the money.
No, they'll have the information there, and they only have to go to the DEP once,
Yeah, okay.
and they'll have all the information.
So the information is going to be sent in as the map that we got in February.
With Hamburg Mountain on it.
No, we know they can't.
And
go
with
up
some of the
to
lake
Mount.
communities on it.
Doesn't mean it's going to,
Is that correct, though?
Well, we don't have a map. We were not presented with a map. There is no map. I'm not sure who's designing this for Mr. Rizzuto, but there is no map, there's no plan.
Mrs. Murphy, the issue
but the
has been
MUA
decided.
is now going to
Can we
take
move on?
over.
But you voted on a resolution for them to do with, and it says that there's a letter, it says that there's a plan. There is nothing.
Because now it's up to the MUA.
Exactly.
No.
Let them do what they were supposed to do.
So you
Okay.
Been presented with
you
the
endorse, you endorsed a non-plan to be made up in the future. Why don't you attach a bond to it at the same time?
Oh, I'm sure that.
I'd like, well, that's another question. But
So items for discussion. I guess we do not need to discuss the sewer expansion. Then another item for discussion is an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending 99-25 of the Vernon Township Code, allowing permit parking on Carroll Drive, Old Glenwood Circle, Meadowlark Drive, Cove Court, Bellister Drive, and Ivy. Does anybody have any comments on this?
Council President, could I just give a little context on this?
Sure.
During the last couple of meetings, there's been a lot of discussion regarding parking in the Appalachian Trail. The mayor met with the police provided the streets, and then I prepared a draft ordinance for the governing body to consider that creates a permit parking area along the streets mentioned in the agenda and in the ordinance. The ordinance is not perfect by any means, but is really meant to be a starting point for a discussion regarding how to address the parking issues along the Appalachian Trail. We could do what is provided for in the ordinance, which provides for a permit type of system where you're applying for permits. There's also the possibility that we could do metered parking, but this is really a policy question for the governing body to determine how they would like to handle the parking situation along the AT.
I noted a kind of a missing element in this, and that is when you go to a beach and you buy permits, there are several things that can occur. You can buy a daily permit, you can buy a weekly permit, a seasonal permit, a monthly permit, and I really think that that should be considered here. I think the $25 non-resident fee for one day is exorbitant, so I think there should be an adjustment made and see how this works out. But I really think that you should cater to people who like to come back to Vernon and yet maintain some control on how that's done. My sister-in-law just went down to the shore to get early permits, so she gets a discount for doing that, and down at the beach. So I think these are items that you really should consider before we finalize this plan.
Has,
For parking, that permit you were saying?
No, it's for
yeah,
going on the beach,
To get on the beach, so
Yeah.
she went down early to get a
to get a
beach pass,
discounted
but
passes
not
for her
parking.
family, yeah.
has, Mr. Mayor, has there been any discussion about the area by Heaven Hill, by the Baldwin property, where the Appalachian Trail comes across 94? Is that Vernon? Is that Warwick?
We're near Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
That's state property. Yeah, have there's been discussion? We've had discussion after discussion after discussion. But there, we don't have the highway. It's not our property.
Well,
Baldwin, if they sell it, that would be up to them.
I think there's this change, there's a possibility of a change of ownership of that property that's next to, as part of the Ricky Farm. And there is land that the Appalachian Trail owns, going all the way up to the mountain.
Right.
And they were thinking of an easement to get across that entranceway behind the barn, and that's a possibility. In fact, that was one of the alternate sites that we had recommended when we had the meeting last fall. There's also the parking lot on Canal Road that we thought would be good, so people could walk in from the other side. There's an opportunity on the other side of the bridge on Canal Road to do the same. And we had a fifth alternate site that we were talking about, plus the original site that was planned. So that's 6 sites that we could explore. But at that time, when we had this meeting of about 25 people, there was very little interest to follow through on those things.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to lose the tourism for the town, because it's the ripple effect, and you, obviously, we want people to come back, and
Right.
make it as feasible as possible for these people. Maybe we could have more than one site, maybe 2 different sites if people are agreeable, or we can work something out. Negotiation is the key word, so I don't know,
But I think the issue at hand are not these secondary sites, but the primary property seems to bring all of the concern, which is on 517 by the access to the boardwalk. And I was down there this weekend, and literally it was dangerous. Okay, I mean, dogs were running, kids were running, hanging by the car. And this is on the southbound side, going towards town. I mean, that whole area was parked. The other side was completely filled. People were getting out, taking coolers. I've seen them with baby strollers. I honestly, I've only gone a few steps out into that. I don't know what's in there in terms of, are there picnic benches, sir, or is there a
lot of
playground,
mosquitoes in the
or is-
summertime.
Where are they going? But, it sounds like a nice place, but my concern, yes, and,
Excuse me,
Madam President, the chief is-
Can I be heard on the issue?
Sure, yeah. Come on.
I was going to ask to have you heard on the issue.
All right. It's an extremely complicated issue, and everybody here so far has commented about the impact on the hikers. Yeah, that's part of it. The impact is on the homeowners who live in that area, who get invaded every weekend.
Yeah.
And it's about to get worse.
Worse.
So, number one is the safety. What we saw that one weekend in February, that Sunday, where we had the break in the weather, was the worst that we've ever seen it. It was beyond dangerous. Cars parked wherever they wanted to park. People just walking down the middle of the road. I was in my unmarked police car trying to drive back down Metal Arc. Dad, Mom, and the little kid, they looked over the shoulder, and they just continued to walk down the middle of the road. I had to do 4 miles an hour until they decided it was time for them to move over. So that's when we instituted the temporary emergency no parking. We have to do something. We can't have them parking all over. The alternate sites, in my opinion, is not going to fix the 517 problem. The carrot is the boardwalk. That's what they want. They don't want to go to the Ricky Farm and work their way back. They don't want to pick up the trail over by the high school or over by Pochuck Farms and whatnot. They want the boardwalk. That's what they're coming for. That's the carrot. So in working with the county, we were able to get the southbound lane of 517 north of Carroll Drive opened up for as long as there's a reasonable shoulder. Is it perfect? No. But it's no worse than where they're allowed to park now on the northbound lane south of Carroll Drive. The idea is to try to get them, we started by, on Carroll Drive, letting them just park on the one side. And then if you went and saw the property damage alone to the shoulder of the roadway and then the opposite side, even though they're not allowed to park there, people just making their K-turns and U-turns, just driving on people's yards, the tire marks, the track marks, it was just atrocious. It's actually shocking because the demographic for a hiker to me doesn't match what you see done and what's going on over there. But there needs to be a fix. Now, as far as making long-term permits and whatnot, that's not going to solve the problem. If it's permits for everybody, okay, the only thing it's going to be then is a revenue generator for the town, and that's not the goal. We want to restrict the number of people that park on here. I've been making some edits to the ordinance that I feel are important. I'm recommending right now 3 types of permits: a resident daily permit, a non-resident daily permit, and a resident guest, meaning the people who live in the impacted area have access. And the only one that would not be a daily, you have to come get it on the day of, would be the resident guest one. If we make it too easy for everybody to get permits, you haven't solved any problems. All you've done is raise some money by charging permit fees. Same thing if you put meters in. In theory, it sounds like a good idea, but if they can just pull up and put some money in a meter, they're still going to park there. We're still going to have the problem. The idea is to get enough parking for a reasonable amount of people, and then try to enforce it. Right now, we've got an ordinance that on Carroll Drive would have the people parking on the side of the road when you go in the first 1,000 feet, on the side of the road on the left. The way the ordinance is written right now, the people have to park in front of the houses, not on the side where there are no houses. So we've been doing some signage changes, trying to see what works before we rewrite this ordinance. So the idea is to have an Appalachian Trail permit parking zone that lists the residential areas and tries to in some way restrict the amount of people that can park there so that these people, I mean, can you imagine owning a house that you've lived in for 20 years with no issues? Now every Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday, you know there's going to be bumper to bumper in cars and people walking up and down your street. It's if you haven't seen it, it's pretty bad. So, your question?
But if they're buying a permit, they're still going to be able to park in front of the homes, but in a certain area, are you suggesting?
Right, it'll be a limited amount of area.
There'll still be cars in front of their houses.
There could still, but the idea is to limit it. If there's a permit where they have to come to the police station and pay the fee and go over there, they're more likely to park where they don't need a permit, which is we have, like I said, we expanded what is allowed, that shoulder on the southbound lane on north of Carroll Drive. That's still not enough. But short of just letting them park like we have been, I mean, we've spent thousands of dollars in overtime already over the last 12 months, putting extra officers up there. We've got to just dedicate on Saturdays and Sunday mornings an officer to stay up there, just to keep people from parking. Forget ordinances, just Title 39 violations, parking too close to intersections, parking too close to stop signs, parking so that the tires are out on the highway, and things like that. So the idea of the permit parking area is to limit it, not with a fixed number, but knowing that with the minor inconvenience of having to get the permit, we'll cut down on the number of people who try to park on Meadow Lark, who try to park on Valestria. I mean, when we put signage up, I mean, it's just incredible. Wherever we end the signs, no matter how far we go back into Vernon Valley Lake, that's where they start parking. I mean, they came there to hike, so I guess a couple extra steps isn't obnoxious to them, but this is a complicated problem. This ordinance is a step, but if we came up with a parking lot for 30, 40 cars, I'm not sure on the peak days, that's going to solve the problem.
But your permits would control that. You only offer so many permits for that street.
That's if we decide to limit the permits, and that's not what's in the ordinance now, and that's not anything I've started to change yet, but that is a possibility that we decide that we're only going to issue X number of permits.
I'm sorry, but Carroll Drive is all filled up. How about the stairwell to heaven? I mean, we've got 25 permits allowed for that area today.
That is the direction that we're going. Nobody's talked about a limited number of permits yet. For example, The problem we have now with the emergency no parking is we're getting contacted by people that live on Meadowlark and Carroll. Hey, I'm having a family function. I need to put 4 or 5 cars out on the road. All right, well, the problem is, once those 4 or 5 cars go out there, if that officer drives away from there for 2 minutes, it's just, okay, there must be allowed to park here, so everybody else does.
Yeah.
So what we need is a sign at the entrance to Carroll. Parking by permit only, whatever we decide, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. You know, at the entrance to Carroll, parking by permit only. And then the residents will have something they can put on their rearview mirrors for their guests that the police can drive by, and other people will clearly see there's some sort of tag hanging down from this car and it's allowed to park there. I don't know if it's going to work or not yet. Nobody does. But, I mean, even today, we ran out of parking today. I mean,
Nice day.
this is something that is, you know, I've been on the police department 27 years. This is something that's 2 or 3 years old, and it's getting worse. The articles are out there. They're even telling people the police are writing tickets, and that's not our goal. You know, we don't get any income by writing tickets out there. The goal is to keep it safe, to keep people parking where they're supposed to be. We were up there we went the Monday after the President's Monday, after that Sunday in February, we had the problem. And again, I was in an unmarked car, and there was a marked car driving by. And some guy in a Honda CRV, I was on Meadowlark, stopped his car, his passenger got out, and they started moving the barrels so that they'd have a place to park. We were right there. I mean, they don't care. But it's a safety hazard. It's an extreme inconvenience to the residents. And one of the plans that we have is to, hopefully, I'm going to try for next Monday night, to have a meeting down in the senior center where we're going to invite anybody who's in the affected area. If you're a resident, if you just care about the trail, and we're just going to come and, I really want to see, I've heard individually from a lot of the different residents, but let's get them all in the same room. You know, they all say, you know, yeah, they have a problem, but no, they don't want a parking lot, but even if they wanted a parking lot, there's no place to put a parking lot right now. Anybody who thinks that shuttle buses are going to work, it's not going to work. It's just human nature. Before they try a shuttle bus, they're going to go see if they can park at the spot. Who wants to wait for, look at snow tubing in Mountain Creek. That shuttle bus doesn't work at all. I mean, the people don't wait, so what do we get? We have people walking down the highway. I mean, that's just the fact of life. So the ordinance, I think we need a little bit more work. I wanted to get the residents' input. You know, the idea would be to give anybody who lives there free permits. They get X number, whatever we decide that they can have in their kitchen, so they don't have to, if they're having friends over, they don't have to come down to the police station and get something. They're the ones that live in the area. So, again, the ordinance would establish a Appalachian Trail permit parking area, which is the roads that we talked about, Carroll Drive, Old Glenwood Circle, Alestria, Meadowlark, Court, and so on. And to park on those areas on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and state holidays, you would need a permit. A daily permit would be either for Vernon residents or non-Vernon residents. What the fees are, that's up to you. But I don't agree that letting people come in and buy a season pass for the trail, well, I like the idea better, actually, of limiting it to 25 per day or 30, whatever we decide those roads can reasonably handle without overwhelming the residents. And then on a day, if they come to police headquarters, yeah, I'd like a permit. Well, I'm sorry, we've already issued our 25 permits for today.
You might have to do that, because if you oversell them, you'll have people come back.
That's the point. Whether you meter them or permit them, if there's no limit to them, you're not solving a problem, you're just generating income. And the idea is not to generate income, the idea is to solve the problem. It's, like I said, it's to the point now where I'm trying to scramble to try to see if I have enough special officers to work there. Because paying officers to be there on overtime is ridiculously expensive. And it's a problem that we need to start moving, because even if you were introducing it tonight, we're still not, it wouldn't be done for a month. So, you know, we get a weekend with this type of weather, you know, we're going to pay for it as taxpayers, because I'm going to have to put officers out there, and they can't leave. I'm telling you, if they leave, they come back. Today was a perfect example. You know, we didn't have somebody stationed there. I didn't expect on a Monday afternoon that it would be that bad. But, you know, they drive by, they come back, and here's cars parked where they're not supposed to be parked.
Do we get any of the money from the tickets? Or
I don't know, because I know the police department doesn't get it, but I don't know if the town does. They're ordinance violations, so I would assume the town does get some of it. But we're not trying to write tickets. We're trying to...
I'm just saying to pay the police. You know,
No,
if we're paying
no, I
overtime or we have an
understand.
extra...
But the idea is to stop them from parking where they're not supposed to be beforehand versus going back later and writing tickets, because once you've written a ticket, you know, now you have an upset tourist who now has a bad taste in their mouth, because I agree, we're a tourist town. We don't want to discourage these people from coming here, but the problem is we've got this attraction that came, you know, that was there for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years that boardwalk has been there, and we didn't have this type of reaction. And now all of a sudden, it's frustrating. We have to put out on a Friday night between 70 and 80 temporary signs and then take them all down on Sunday night. That's in addition to other permanent. Now, we're trying to limit that by we've put a couple permanent signs up that say emergency no parking that we're going to cover. Well, we thought we were going to cover Monday through Friday, but if we have more days like today, we might not. Just to keep it safe, because that's the number one goal, is to keep it safe. Number 2 is the impact on the residents, and number 3 is try to keep the hikers happy so that they want to keep coming back to Vernon. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Chief, I don't think that Saturday and Sunday and Friday is going to be enough. I mean, today was completely packed. Tomorrow it's going to be 80 degrees, they're talking. I think you're going to have Saturday conditions tomorrow, because regardless of whether schools are in or not, you're getting young families coming in, they're spending time there.
Next week when the schools are closed.
It's going to be even worse. My question, and I mentioned this to the mayor, and you mentioned it yourself. I know the issue of, you mentioned meters, and I thought about meters, and the reason why I thought about them is the thing that you want is you want to move the people along. So if you put them under a time element, say an hour and a half maximum, and I don't know if you could chalk the tires or something like that. That way they would have to come back and move the car. Maybe what they would say, well, we've had our hour and a half, and they'll take they'll leave and give somebody else a chance. What kind of thought is that?
Well, the issue with meters could be looked into further, but here's the problem. First of all, you can't put meters on 517, it's a county road.
Okay.
Now, do you think the people living on Carroll and Meadowlark want a parking meter in front of their house?
No.
So I reasonably don't think that meters are the way to go. I think the permit parking, that's, this is nothing new. People know, the residents up there know, on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm up there driving around, if I see them out on their porch, if I see them talking out by their mailboxes, I'm out there asking them, what's your solution? What do you think we should do? And they've liked the fact that, if nothing else, we are trying different things. We're trying, now they have to park over here versus there. And we went to the emergency no parking. At least they see that we're trying and they recognize that. So the next step before we finalize any ordinance to be introduced to you is I wanted to have a meeting where, hey, if they want to come, they can come. At least they can say what they're thinking. There's actually 1 or 2 residents that don't mind it at all, that actually have no problem with all the cars on the street. Of course, they're the one I'm thinking about, Meadowlark, happens to live on the side of the street that the people are not allowed to park on. It's the opposite side of the street. But to hear what they want to say, to see what they think of the permit parking area, to vote on it or to bring it to you guys and then find out that that's not what they want. But I think as long as they're given permits that their guests can come at no fee and not have to worry about getting a ticket, I would think that would be attractive to them. To the people I spoke to one-on-one, that's been a good idea. But there's a lot of people that, are never outside when I drive by. So, again, we're open for suggestions. The remote parking areas, I understand the other Canal Road parking areas, but those are so limited. And you're talking a dozen cars or less. And again, that road was not designed for any type of traffic to be going up and down. That road's not in very good condition. And the people that bought those houses on those roads bought them there for a reason, because they're in the middle of nowhere. And to start directing people to the Canal Road, Bucky Lane parking areas, I think would overwhelm them very, very quickly. Yes, it's not an unreasonable thing that once we get full over by 517 to suggest on 94 by Stairway to Heaven, but you have to have a body there to do that. Now, the permit, if they come in, hey, there's no permits left, there's no parking left, well, they could be handed a piece of paper, well, here are a couple alternate parking areas. I like the idea that they have to come to headquarters to get the permit. because it gives us a chance to give them a piece of paper saying, oh, you know what, that's not the only place that you can get the Appalachian Trail. There are other access points. There's multiple throughout town that nobody knows about. If they put a boardwalk there, I bet they would, but, so I just wanted people to understand that it's the boardwalk that's the attraction. It's not just the fact that they're accessing the Appalachian Trail, that we've tried multiple signage arrays. I mean, it's almost a shame because I personally don't like signage. But in this case, we have to do something to tell them where they can and can't park and come up with an ordinance that's going to, again, keep the people safe, limit the amount of people on the residential roadways, limit the impact on the residents, and then hopefully make it not too inconvenient for those that do want to walk. The one thing about an hour and a half, that's a great question. I think there's actually spending a little bit more time than that on the trail. I would guess the average is probably 3 to 4 hours.
Right, yeah.
You know, I haven't walked the whole way myself to go from there to Ricky Farm, but I've walked a lot of that trail. But I got a feeling a lot of people are going almost to the 94 end, and then they're coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here if anybody.
A lot of them go up, they go up the stairway.
Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they park on 517.
You can then cross 94, you can go up, and then you can come down, and, you know, you could certainly do that in a day, the Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
But, and some people just park, and even the one on 94, that really isn't designed for the number of cars that are parking there. I think there's really only like 8 approved parking spots there on 94. It's just there happens to be enough roadway and shoulder.
I think they bought more property over there.
No, they have it already.
Yeah,
They have the
they
property,
bought.
but I don't think they've ever got like zoning and whatnot to actually add parking. But where they're parking, it's not unsafe. They're not creating an unsafe situation. They don't have to walk anywhere near the roadway to get up to the highway. So while I'm here, if anybody's got any other questions, this is very frustrating for us as well.
Have you set your meeting date? I'm sorry.
I'm trying for next Monday, a week from tonight, in the senior center. That I just checked, found out the senior center is available. We'll put it out on our Facebook page. I've been told it's not a public meeting, it's just us, a community gathering, so I don't need the meeting days, because we're just inviting the public to come to a discussion about, you know, the only agenda is going to be the Appalachian Trail. We're going to tell them what our idea is for the permit at the time, where it's at, get their feedback. If they, as a group, seem to agree, that's great. If they don't, we'll see if there's other options out there, but we have to do something because we're about to get inundated. And like I said, it actually started back in February, that one Sunday we had. So frustrating problem, trying to keep everybody happy. You know, like I said, writing tickets is not the answer because all it does is get people upset. And now you got somebody who might have made their one and only trip to Vernon, and this is what they think of Vernon, which you come here and get a ticket.
Could be a good time to sell your house.
Probably wouldn't be a good time to sell your house if you were there. And not if somebody came to look at it on a Saturday or Sunday.
Council President, if I may have a suggestion that the mayor the police chief communicate with me his revisions to the suggested ordinance. I then will
Yeah, that was definitely part of the plan.
definitely draft the revised ordinance.
I know I
recirculate
asked the clerk there were a couple questions about wording and whatnot. So, yeah, before anything, yeah, we definitely go through the town attorney because I'm only modifying what you started with, the things that I see I think we should.
It'd be very helpful.
And then hopefully we'll come with a document that works, and hopefully this is what the residents want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What,
If I can add, last week, we met with the Director of Government Assistance with the DEP, and my suggestion was, if you go up 517 on the southbound side, just north of Ann Place, almost across the street from the cemetery, there's state land that appears to be dry. You would need a study, and I suggested, why don't we have a parking lot built there? And then you would bring a trail parallel behind the guide rails. There is one stream to cross, so that would be another study and more money there to build a parking lot. And they said, are there hardwoods there? And I said, yes, there are trees there. And they said, well, we're not going to allow you to cut down trees. So then I suggested to them, maybe we can do a trade. We have enough property in this town, maybe we could trade one parcel for this parcel, but the problem comes again, who's going to pay for it? And although I've talked to the AT Conservancy a number of times, the state and the county, the question comes down to who's going to pay, and no one's bringing their checkbook with them. and we can't afford it.
Were you trying to get the speed limit lowered there?
Yes, we asked the county a year ago, and we're still in
By the way,
negotiations.
Engineering,
Johns
and
that
it's
were
not-
delivered. Who's
Okay.
paying?
State,
County doesn't.
State's paying for this?
state's paying for them. Yeah, the DEP.
How much is it
Sorry, I didn't hear
costing?
the question.
Any idea how much they're running? Running the state?
I don't
Why
know.
should you care, right?
Well,
I think they're around $80 a month normally.
$80 a month?
and then we had complaints because you have porta-johns there, and that ruins the view.
You're right, yeah, right.
It does, but what are you going to do? We can't have people go in the bathroom
No,
on
because
people's
they're doing it
properties.
all over the place,
You know, I mean, just,
people's residences.
That speed, when you go through Warwick and people are parking on the side of the road, they have all those cones, everybody drives slowly. If that could become the norm with the lower speed limit, maybe that would help with the safety.
oh, I agree 100%, and that's one of the first things we approached the county with in 2016.
And
We started addressing this problem in January 2016.
Been working on it.
And we've asked them to lower that speed limit, and they said, you need all these studies, and you might be liable if you lower the speed limit if an accident results. Well, I think there's going to be an accident from high speeds before you have a car doing 25 miles an hour hit somebody. But it's going to happen. It's a matter of time. You all know.
The chief and I met with the county engineer approximately 2 weeks ago and discussed this idea of lowering the speed limits, and he did say, yes, he has to conduct some engineering studies. Likely, he has to separate the whole area into like 4 sections, and it will take some time. He said he would put it on the schedule, but we don't know exactly when that will be. But we told him we would prefer to have it sooner rather than later,
Yes.
anything that will help. He did say that he also gets a lot of calls and complaints about speeding in the Vernon Valley Lakes area as well. So I think they're gonna look at it from a broad perspective, not just at the boardwalk, but a longer stretch of roadway there.
In that area, there has been fatals. I don't know if speed was one of the factors, but through the years, there's been a number of fatals right through that area, car accidents.
We're not open to the public. I'm sorry. Council comments? Mr. Kadish?
It's come to my attention that the reason that the air conditioning is not working properly is because Digger's not here. And if you were here, he'd be charging overtime. Can I ask either you, Mr. Mayor, or you, Mr. Administrator, to learn how to turn it on? Get taught how to run the computer that does this. I'm sure if Digger can do it, we can get somebody else to do it at night. Because this is positively evil. And I suffered with this back in the 90s. We haven't improved. All we need is a
training starting tomorrow.
That's all we need, and maybe even Elka. Thank you.
Councilmember Ohms?
No comments.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yeah, I just want to compliment the mayor and his staff on this budget, and hopefully, we can squeeze it a little bit more to help the taxpayers out. And I appreciate you listening to us, and appreciate you taking another look at it and see what we can do. You can't get blood out of a stone, but you can try. You can try.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Wetzel. I noticed that when the initial budget presentation was made, the police department came in beautifully well low, the fire department was in there, even the DPW. I think we have to look at the administrative areas. We have some multiple use of floaters, and perhaps maybe we are paying a bit too much for the legal services. That becomes a question of how you have to use, work on your resources, devote your resources. But, to say there's a general dissatisfaction with our major departments, DPW, fire, and police, would be erroneous.
No.
Absolutely. The only other thing I can say is next week, kids are going to be off, I believe.
And this week.
I'm sorry.
And this week,
And
too.
this week. So the good weather's coming, so please, people, keep an eye out for these people that
running along the side of the road, bicycling or whatever. Spring is here, and thank you.
And I just wanted to remind everyone that on April 20th at 7 p.m., the MUA will be having their meeting a little earlier. I think they may be starting at 6. And then at 7, we have a joint meeting with the council and the MUA. And all of the council members, except for Mr. Rizzuto, did say that they could attend. So if anyone from the public would like to attend, please do. It'll be held here. Thank you.
I was not able
Motion
to
to-
attend
motion-
because of a previous engagement.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.